Voice family.
Are you on Getter yet? No?
What are you waiting for?
It's free.
It's uncensored.
And it's where all the biggest voices in conservative media are speaking out.
Download the Getter app right now. It's totally free. It's where I put up exclusively all of my content 24 hours a day. You want to know what Steve Bannon's thinking? Go to Getter.
That's right. You can follow all of your favorites. Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec.
And so many more.
And the best part?
You can watch Real America's Voice right there on Getter.
Live.
So join the conversation.
Hop on the Getter chat room.
Engage with patriots who are just like you.
Good morning, Getter friends.
We're breaking news, we're delivering the truth,
And we're doing it on Getter
Every single day. So don't wait. Download the Getter app now.
Sign up for free and be part of the movement.
It isn't just an app. It isn't just a social media platform. It's a community.
Nah, it must be 4 o'clock. Markets closing on Wall Street. 4 o'clock markets opening for news and politics on Bolling Street. There it is. Where's the bell? Bell. Bang, 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 bang. I'll go through as fast as we have a packed show for you today. The Dow Jones ended up 207. Well, I got 271. You guys have there we go, 278. NASDAQ down 35. Here's the good news. Oil down $1.40, 61, pushing on, get back under 60. Feel a lot better. Gold up $44. And for those who are watching, Bitcoin as we speak is 103,300, 103,200, 103,200. All right, let's get right to it, man. Huge show. My first guest recently introduced a resolution to censor Congresswoman LaMonica McIver of New Jersey due to her unlawful entry and assault on ICE officers at that Delaney Hall ICE facility on May 9th. Welcome, Congressman William Timmons from the great state of South Carolina. Welcome back, Congressman Timmons. So this is great. We're going to have Congressman Ogles on a little bit later. I want to talk to him about it as well. He's very upset about what's going on in his home state of Tennessee, specifically Nashville. Tell us, this is great. So Congresswoman McIver breaks the law and somehow thinks she's above the law. You want to have her censored. Tell us.
Absolutely. Her behavior was completely unacceptable. She body checked law enforcement. She was screaming and yelling and just acting entirely inappropriately for a human, no less a member of Congress. It is beneath the dignity of the office, and she needs to be held accountable. Look, I'm all for the censure motion that I filed, but I know Representative Buddy Carter from Georgia has filed a motion to kick all 3 of the New Jersey members off committee. And there's other options. But we have to make an example out of this behavior to make sure the American people know that this is unacceptable and that we're above this. We just can't we can't let this stand.
So their famous line when they were going through lawfare with Trump is, he's an ex-president, so what? He's not above the law. No one is above the law. And it's all I'm hearing from these Democrats, especially the ones who are defending Ras Baraka, the Newark, New Jersey mayor, who did the same thing. He broke the line. He put hands on officers. He got arrested. He was arraigned today. What hypocrisy out of your colleagues in the House.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. And we're going to hold them accountable, and we're going to make an example and make sure this doesn't happen again.
Censorship is a big deal. Tell the folks why censorship matters as a congressperson.
So it used to matter a lot more, but basically your House colleagues make you stand in the well, and the speaker reads the motion and basically blesses you down in front of all of your colleagues. And the whole point is to say this is unacceptable behavior and we're not going to tolerate it. And so at the end of the motion, you actually have to leave the floor and you're not allowed to speak again that day. So, it has historically been a big deal. It's been used for a number of kind of less important things in the last couple of Congresses because the Democrats have kind of made a mockery of a lot of things. But it is still a big deal. You still are forced to be brought before your colleagues and made an example of him. Mm-hmm. That's what we need to do. Again,
I don't remember, Congressman. Did you guys censor Green when he stood up and State of the Union or whatever the first state, whatever you call the address to the American people, the first one that Trump he created an uproar. Did he actually he got escorted out of the chamber, but was he censored as well?
He was censored, absolutely, and he very much deserved it. I mean, that was outrageous to interrupt the presidential address in that way.
Okay, now, censor McIver, why not arrest her?
That's not my call. The president's former lawyer, Alina Habba, is the U.S. attorney for the state of New Jersey. I'm sure they're looking into it. obviously, we've got a very slim majority in the House. If she were to be otherwise engaged for the next 18 months, it would help our margins. But that's not my call.
Now we have people essentially breaking the law, and liberals and progressives are saying, well, let's not. Specifically, what I'm talking about, there's a federal judge in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who let an illegal out the back door. She got arrested, and her lawyers are saying, well, she's a judge. You can't arrest the judge. And I'm just thinking the hypocrisy, because they were saying the same thing about Trump not being above the law. Yet now they want a judge to be above the law. They want a congresswoman to be above the law, and a measly little Newark mayor to be above the law.
Well, the judge in Wisconsin was a state court judge and actively concealing technically a fugitive. And, that illegal immigrant had been, they were going to deport him, and she basically shielded him and took him out the back door through her chambers, and she's held accountable. The federal grand jury has indicted her, and she will have her day in court. But look, this is just ridiculous. And they think that they can get away with it. But I just remember back when the riots were burning down cities, and the Democrats didn't want to do anything. So I guess we should expect this much.
Is she in any of the hierarchy? Is she MacGyver? I'm speaking of in any committees, because I know that's another way to punish somebody. Look, it's common knowledge. The base salary of you folks, both the House and the Senate, $174,000, but comes with a lot of benefits. But the people who are in leadership roles in committees, especially high-profile committees, get a lot more money. Why not? And a way to kind of punish people for bad behavior is take the gavel away from them, or in this case, it would be the top opposing party minority on the committee. Can you take any of those away from her?
So she is on a number of committees, but she's a freshman. There's not really she's not on important committees, if you will. But the resolution that's been filed by Buddy Carter actually proposes to take all three of the New Jersey members that were at the ICE detention facility off their committee assignment. So, it's something the Republican conference is going to have to figure out how we're going to handle it, but we have to have accountability.
What's the fear? I mean, you have the Congress, you have the gavel. Johnson has got the gavel. He can do this. Why isn't he pull it? It just goes to a vote, right?
It's a floor vote, and we need to make sure that we win the floor vote. We are very careful not to.
Would there be what Republican would stand in the way of censoring and/or pulling committee from these three clowns? Pardon my French.
I do not see the censorship motion failing. I think it's probably a sure thing. The question becomes, I can tell you exactly what Rep. MacIver did, but the other two New Jersey reps, I'm not sure exactly. I haven't seen the video footage. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I'm very comfortable with Rep. MacIver's culpability and wrongdoing. So if we're going to take the other two off their committee assignments or censure them, we're going to have to get the video footage so we can determine that they are culpable and they did commit these crimes as well.
And I look at what the when Fetterman won, when he became senator, and he was wearing gym shorts and hoodies, and the Democrats had the Senate. Chuck Schumer was the majority leader, and he instituted a dress code on the Senate floor, which forced Fetterman to not show up. He could walk in and vote, and he couldn't linger. He couldn't be in your caucus, in their caucus. And that's Democrats. I mean, why can't we? You have the gavel. Let's show some strength. Use the freaking thing, Johnson. I'd love to bring him on the show and ask him, why aren't you using that gavel, and make a case, make an example, so that other people don't decide to pull the same garbage.
I think we are going to make an example out of her. I think the question is going to be when, and I think that's probably going to be soon. But we got to make sure we're all on the same page. And we're also, dealing with the one big, beautiful bill. That's taken up a lot of the time and a lot of the oxygen. And we got to get that bill passed. And that's probably our number one priority. Holding Rep. MacIver accountable is a far second compared to getting Trump's entire agenda passed into law. So we're juggling a lot right now, but we're going to get it all done.
Well, one of the other things a lot of people are concerned about, Congress people have come on. We've had Marjorie Taylor Greene come on. We've had others come on saying Congress needs to stay, forget these 180 days of vacation, 200 days of vacation, whatever it is. I think it's 200 days off. we need to stay and get these executive orders and Trump's policies, Trump's agenda passed. I mean, you go away for weeks at a time. Is there any push to maybe give up some of that time off? And I know what you're going to say. It's not vacation. Like, we go back to district and we talk to the folks. But I don't know. A lot of American people would like to have 190 days or something like that off a year to talk to their neighbors.
I've worked more on the congressional schedule than anybody in Congress in the last 40 years, and I would change a lot. But, you know, we do need to be here more. We got to get our work done. The biggest issue with codifying President Trump's executive orders is that most of them require 60 votes in the Senate. We do have a substantial number of them that are going to be included in reconciliation wherever possible, given the parameters of the parliamentarian and the Senate's rules. So we got to make sure that we don't run afoul of that. But
all right.
The biggest issue.
I know. We want you, though, brother. We want you to, like, I mean, it was perfect. It's not even a perp walk. I mean, just see some punishment for acting like absolute embarrassing clowns to the rest of the world when they're looking in and seeing what our elected officials are up to. Congressman, really appreciate you here. William Timmons from South Carolina. Good having you, my friend. Thank you. We'll bring you back again soon.
Thank you for having me on. Be well.
Okay. Before we hit a break, I just want to remind you about my podcast and YouTube page, updated daily. But right now, we are running something that's just on fire, folks. You got to come over and sign up and subscribe on YouTube or any of the podcast areas. You can see them right there. Just subscribe. It's free. But we're doing Diddy. We're doing the Diddy trial every day. Some of the salacious details that are coming out, it's mind-blowing. I can't even say them on cable television. So head over there and check it out. Subscribe, and you'll never miss. You can see these episodes, but also all that extra content. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes. That's a pretty good place. That's a pretty fun place. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. A lot of golf courses, a lot of bars. Went down there and got myself in a little trouble in college. I think I did, but we got out of it. Everything ended up okay, folks. Tax day may have passed, but if you missed the April 15th deadline or still owe back taxes, the IRS is ramping up enforcement with over 5,000 new tax liens filed daily and tools like property seizures, bank levies, and wage garnishments. the IRS is applying pressure at levels we haven't seen in years. The good news, though, and there's still time for Tax Network USA to help. Self-employed or a business, doesn't matter. You own the business, that's fine too. Even if your books are an absolute mess, they've got it covered. Tax Network USA specializes in cleaning up financial chaos, getting you back on track fast. Your consultation is completely free, and acting now could stop penalties, threatening letters, and those surprise levies before they escalate. Call 1-800-905-8000 or visit tnusa.com/RAV. You may have missed April 15th, but you haven't run out of options. Let Tax Network USA help before the IRS makes a move on you. All right, my next guest, host of Rav's Law and Border, who was recently out with ICE Houston, and that's not a basketball team. That's actually the ICE agents in Houston. And now at the ICE Detention Center, welcome Ben Berquan back. And ICE Houston Field Director Brett Bradford is with him. Ben, if you have Brett, you can feel free to bring him in anytime. Tell us what you're finding, what you're seeing. I want to preface this with, I spoke to, I believe it was ICE, maybe it was Border, both of them. I'm going to do a ride along with them in the next couple of days or so. Tell us what Houston is experiencing.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned that. I got to say, a lot of people have sports heroes. I have ICE heroes, the people that actually put on the uniform and protect our country, law enforcement that protects our country. Huge shout out to them. I'll bring on Brett Bradford. He's the field office director for the Houston AOR. We're here and this is a first of its kind, Eric. We're breaking some news out here at the Montgomery County Detention Center.
Yeah, Montgomery Processing Center.
And we're actually in one of the facilities here. This room holds 80 people. And this room is full of people, but they're outside recreating right now. If you would just give us we were riding with you yesterday. You guys had a big operation last week. Talk us about where you've been, where you guys are at now, and where you're heading.
Sure. Last week was one of our surge operations, and we actually ended the week with about 422 apprehensions, which was certainly a big week and a busy week for us. This facility that you're seeing today is where all of those arrests come to get processed. Some may actually end up getting detained or housed here. Some may go to other facilities. But this is a primary intake facility for the Houston Field Office, and it was built primarily for this purpose. So it's built and set up to most efficiently and expeditiously handle the ICE processes.
And total numbers right now that are here, and one of the big things is, a lot of mainstream media is giving you guys a hard time about who you're going after, the percentage of criminals that are here. Talk to us about the demographics that you see in this building.
Sure, there's a couple things I'd say. Number one, the total capacity of this building is a little over 1,400. We have about 1,200 in here right now. And the way we house them with classification levels and not housing hardcore criminals with non-criminals, you really never can meet that maximum capacity. There's always going to be some variable, but we stay pretty full here all the time. 60% of the folks in here right now are criminals, have criminal convictions, and about 10% of what you see in here right now are female. So it's 10% female, 90% male.
Hey, Ben.
One of the things you mentioned. Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Ben, I want to talk a little. This is fascinating because we're looking in the background. It looks like it's like a beautiful building. The reason why I bring this up, the Delaney ICE Detention Center in Newark, New Jersey, where all the ruckus happened, where the Newark mayor was arrested for breaking and entering, trespassing, touching hands-on officers and whatnot. Beautiful facility too. I mean, gorgeous. I mean, just incredible how nice these people are being housed until they're sent back. What would Brett Bradford do if he were confronted with the same thing? The Houston mayor showing up at the door, he would tell him stay out, and maybe a couple of Congress people storming the door. What would be the protocol right now?
Well, Eric's asking, we saw the kind of the contention over in New Jersey and about the statements about the mistreatment of the people that are being housed there. First, before we get to that, Eric, just real quick on the actual treatment of the people, the medical facility here, the law library here, but then the second part of that is, what's the protocol? Are you guys anticipating anything similar to that happening, where you have outside influences coming here and trying to get into the facility, and what would happen if that were to happen in the future?
Sure. First and foremost, I think this facility, it's not here as punitive. It's not meant to punish the detainees. It's here to affect their removal from the United States and ensure their removal from the United States. They get full medical services, full dental services. They get 3 hot meals a day. They've got commissary. They're certainly not mistreated. I think they're treated very well here. They have adequate access to recreation. Each dorm has access to the recreation yard, so they can get as much recreation as they like. The medical, I'd like to hit on that because I think we get a lot of criticism on the medical. We've got a fantastic medical suite here with great staff. A lot of times we actually detect conditions these individuals had that they didn't even know about. They come from areas where they don't get adequate medical care, and they come here and immediately on intake they get an initial screening, medical screening. Then within 14 days they get a full physical examination to find any potential conditions they might have and get those conditions treated. So I certainly don't think anybody's being mistreated in this facility for sure. As far as what happened up in New Jersey, I don't foresee that here just because I think we're in an environment here in Texas and especially in Houston where we have pretty broad community support. I'm very transparent about my operations here and how we do our business, and because of that, I think we avoid a lot of those misperceptions. The community understands what we do and why we do it, and I think that's why we get the support that we get here.
And part of that, Eric, is us being able to invite it in here. Real America's Voice, this is exclusive, being able to come in, show this, show what's happening, especially on a live shot like this. This hasn't happened before, so appreciate you having us in there. Eric, anything else?
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, and the reason, Ben, and you'll appreciate this, is I'm looking at these facilities. They're really they're beautiful. They have law libraries with 20, 30 portals, computers, full access to legal documents and whatnot to defend themselves and whatnot. Gyms, soccer fields. And I juxtapose that with when the January 6th protesters were incarcerated for sometimes years, right? In just squalor, in horrible jail cells. Ben, it pisses me off. I'm sorry. It's a comment. It's not really a question, but just tell us more from there. If the numbers are actually staggering. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know the field office director can't get political on that, but no, there's no question about it. You know, the treatment, when you look at some of the political prisoners that we've seen in the past over the last several years, the treatment that they receive versus, I got to tell you, I'm touring this place, and it's probably got better medical than I have. Everything you could potentially need, even to the point where I say it's probably too, you know, as a guy looking in, I'm like, wait a second, I honestly don't want them having that, but anyone who's saying they're not getting everything they potentially could get, they're not getting their due process, they're not getting treated fairly, I'm telling you what, it's an absolute sham. And you know, I was actually talking to field office director. I toured the Clint Border Patrol station just before AOC went into it, and they had the whole protest out in front of that several years ago. And it was the same thing I found there. Everywhere you go, it's, you know, what's presented in the media is oftentimes not the reality of what's on the ground. What I see from ICE, what I see from the facilities, the warden here running this facility is the pinnacle of professionalism and dealing with some of the hardest, worst people. You know, we were talking 30 plus gang members that are here right now. You know, who knows how many cartel members. These guys are dealing with some of the worst people, and all you see is professionalism. So as one guy looking out or looking in, I got to tell you, it's the exact opposite of what you're hearing many other places.
And so 1,200 are there, holds 1,400. How long are they going to be there? How long before you can get them out? Are we still waiting on judges to decide this?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So talk to us about the numbers. I know you're part of that, getting them out, not wasting taxpayer dollars, is getting them out quickly. Talk to us about how quickly, on average, you're moving through people, how quickly you can get them out, and why sometimes that slows down. And then also, this is one facility. There are 4 total facilities?
4 large facilities like this in Houston field office. We have a couple smaller ones that house under 100 folks, but 4 main facilities. As far as the time that they're here with us, in this facility it's an average of 27 days. It varies a lot by nationality and by case type. If you've got somebody that wants to fight their case, there are a lot of appeal mechanisms and things like that that can delay it. But on average, 27 days. We've started here recently with a hub and spoke type operation. So when we're doing the big surge operations like last week, we'll actually have aircraft staged here. So when we go out and apprehend somebody, if they've already had due process, and most of the folks we're targeting have, and they have a final order of removal, we're going to arrest them that morning. We're going to process them that afternoon, and we're going to put them on that plane that evening to go to a hub location for removal. So we're trying as best we can to avoid as much detention costs as possible for the taxpayers and expedite the removal of these cases.
That's good news, Ben. We got to leave right there, my friend. Appreciate your time, and stay safe as always. Awesome, great stuff. Ben Berkman and Field Office Houston Field Office Director Brett Bradford. Thank you guys both so much. All righty, folks.
Thank you, sir.
Before we head to break, I just want to remind you all about a podcast YouTube page, which are both updated daily. Right now, we are all over the Diddy trial. There's salacious details. You will not believe what that disgusting man was doing and some of the things and some of the video. Can't even show it here. Can't even show it on TV. Go over there digitally. We can show you everything over there and talk about it. Subscribe. It's free. Always going to be free. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes. Now, see, Mad Dog, I know why you did that. I know exactly why you did that. Bristol, Tennessee, this Bristol Speedway, NASCAR location. Beautiful, beautiful speedway. I know why you did that because my next guest, he fights for limited government, lower taxes, and greater freedom to preserve a better future for the next generation. That includes going after criminal illegal aliens and having ICE deport them all. Welcome, Congressman Andy Ogles. Congressman from Tennessee, you're taking issue with the Nashville, Tennessee mayor. Tell us about this fight and what's going on there, sir.
Yeah, so what we've seen all across the country, but specifically Nashville, Homeland Security under the Secretary Noma, under her leadership, ICE has come in and began deporting illegal immigrants. And keep in mind, when you look at that cohort of illegals that are being deported right now, it's murderers, it's rapists, it's child traffickers, drug dealers for meth and cocaine. I mean, this is not who you want on your streets in your community. You're not going to have them be your crossing guard, right, for your kids. And that being said, so the mayor of Nashville is now siding with these criminals, and so he's directed police officers to report any communications with federal law enforcement. The Community Police Oversight Board, he's directing them, telling citizens to file complaints against police officers if they assist federal law enforcement. So they're really putting police in the vice and weaponizing this oversight board against our men and women in blue. That's who keeps us safe. Look, this wokeness against the police, the defund the police nonsense, it's not worked across the country. It's not not going to work in Nashville. And this mayor wants Nashville to be the San Francisco of the South, which would be a woke, liberal, broken city. And all I got to say is not under my watch.
It's interesting. You know, these things are so in the news. We agree with you completely. We had Tom Homan on the show yesterday, and we were talking, and he's doing a great job. Along with Secretary Noem, they're doing fantastic. So there's a judge in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who had an illegal come up to her court, and she slipped him out the back door. This judge is Hannah Dugan, U.S. judge, and she's charged now. She's being charged. She was arrested, and she's charged. My question is, the best part of this, her defense is that a judge can't be arrested for doing her job. Almost like, wait a minute, aren't you playing the same game in opposite of what you did with Trump? Anyway, I digress, but should this mayor, O'Connell, is it O'Connell or O'Donnell, should mayor of Nashville be arrested for aiding and abetting criminals?
Yeah, so we had a hearing in Homeland Security yesterday. So I asked Secretary Noem, one, if his comments were concerning. She said, and I'll paraphrase, absolutely. But then I said, if he's found to be, aiding and abetting illegals, if he's found to have, helped them, quite frankly, get away or elude federal law enforcement, is that a crime? In both questions, she said, I believe it is. And so what I've done is called for the Homeland Security Committee and the Judiciary Committee to look into Nashville. But it's not just Nashville. You see other woke mayors across the country really working against our federal law enforcement, working against President Donald Trump. And one of the things we've uncovered in Nashville, thanks to the Tennessee Star, is that we now know that there's millions of dollars, roughly $3 million that went to Metro Nashville. It went to a nonprofit. Then that money is now going to a new nonprofit that is going to, I don't know, is it going to help illegals escape? Is it going to help them evade federal law enforcement? So there's a lot to unpack here. And again, look, I get it. The mayor doesn't agree with me on immigration or whatever. But that being said, we're a land of laws. We've got to follow those laws. And quite frankly, it makes it more dangerous for federal law enforcement. We're seeing a 400% increase in attacks against law enforcement, specifically federal law enforcement. And so this type of rhetoric, these types of actions, making them the bad guys, when in reality, they're taking MS-13, they're taking Trinidad, they're taking rough, radical, mean people off the streets. So if you're going to make me decide, do I pick between illegal criminals or Tennesseans? I pick Tennesseans every day. You're going to make me pick between illegal criminals and Americans? I'm going to pick Americans. So with that, there's a lot to uncover. We need to have an investigation. This mayor and any other municipal official that's interfering with Secretary Noem and her departments.
Yeah, at some point, maybe Trump can do what he did with the governor of Maine. You don't want to play by the rules that we're putting out, then we're just going to pull back some federal funding for things that you will absolutely need. And she fought him for a while, and then something came up, and one of the school issues, and they said, well, we're going to pull some funding to your schools, and she came, hat in hand, begging for forgiveness. Maybe that's the way to do it. You went to the El Salvador prison where the Tren de la Agua prisoners were being held, the ones that were transported from here. Tell us what you found.
Well, first of all, President Bugale has really turned his country around. So if you don't know much about El Salvador, this is a country that's been in the middle of civil war and gang violence for, 40 years. They don't have a tremendous economy because of that violence. And he was elected president, and he made a commitment to rounding up the gangs and putting them in prison. So you have this infamous prison, CCOT. I visited the prison. I toured the facility. I can tell you that they're treated fairly. They're getting food. The facilities were clean. Now they're strict. But again, I literally talked to an individual who had been deported from Nashville, but then secondly, one of the MS-13 gang members that had been up here in the East Coast, Virginia, New Hampshire, and places in between, is that, the question was asked, when did you get into the gangs? He said 13. Now, why are you in here? His response was homicide. And then the next question was, well, how many people have you killed? And as plain-faced, as stone-faced as you and I talking right now, he said 50. And there was a clarification, 50? Yes, 50. And so these are the types of people that are being sent to El Salvador. Kudos to President Bugale, because he's turned his country around. Now you're seeing more gang violence in Costa Rica and other places. This is a model for Central America. And this has significance to the United States. So why should you care? As we look to decouple from China, We need manufacturing capabilities. Obviously, we want jobs to come back here. We want manufacturing to come back here, but there's opportunities in India, in Mexico, in Canada, and also Central and South America. And we saw during COVID when we were over-reliant on China, they could choke off our supply chain and suddenly couldn't get everyday things and items. So I'd rather be dependent, diversify our manufacturing, and quite frankly, bring it back to the United States. So there's a tremendous opportunity here to partner with El Salvador. One, to get these criminals off of our streets. Secondly, to decouple. They can be part of that equation in decoupling from China.
Yeah, we just got to get federal judges to get out of the way. Federal judges stop acting like super presidents. Declaring the will of the president null and void, which is insane.
Our founding fathers warned us against an activist judiciary.
Correct.
Over and over again. They said that the judiciary could disrupt the balance of powers. You're seeing it unfold today, where you have the judiciary that is weaponized against the American people and against President Donald Trump.
One more before we let you go. So one of the big stories over the weekend coming into this week was the group of Congress people and the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. His name is Raz Baraka. Stormed the ICE facility there, broke some laws, trespassing, and maybe even assaulting officers. He gets arrested. Some of the other Congress people are up in arms. And so one of your colleagues, and this just blows me away. I just asked Tom Homan about this yesterday. He had a great answer. I'd like you to respond to this soundbite of AOC having words for Tom Homan and Kristi Noem.
You lay a finger on someone, on Representative Bonnie Watson-Coleman, on Representative or any of the representatives that were there, you lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem.
We're going to have a what do you think? What the problem she think it's going to be, and what's your answer to that, Congressman Ogles?
So going back to my conversation with Secretary Noem, I asked her in committee, does the oversight authority of Congress allow members of Congress to storm and break into a detention facility? Her answer was no. I said, does the oversight authority allow members of Congress to assault members of federal law enforcement? She said, of course, no. I said, well, is it illegal for a member of anyone to assault a member of the federal law enforcement or law enforcement in general? Of course, the answer is yes. And so that's why I called for the investigation, into this situation, but also the mayor of Nashville. But look, you can't, regardless, Joe the plumber, soccer mom, member of Congress, you cannot assault a member of law enforcement. If you think that's okay, you're the problem, not me. And so AOC's veiled threats is the fact that she knows she is wrong. She knows the law is not with her. And all she can do is posture and threat and say, well, I tried to defend them. But at the end of the day, if they assaulted those police officers, there should be an investigation. And if proof is there should be an arrest.
What about censorship for the members of Congress?
Well, I think there's actions that we can take. There's conversations with the speaker of should they, so I serve with two of them on Homeland Security Committee, should they lose their spot on Homeland? Should they be censored? To be determined. I don't really have an answer for that yet.
I think that's what we want. Congressman, I love what you're doing, and you're representing everything that we voted for. But this is what gets me so crazy with both sides of the aisle. We talk a big game. We know they've broken the law. We know they should be censored or removed from committee hierarchy, and we just never see what we would call a perp walk.
Why didn't we? What about Joe Biden? Right? Why didn't we impeach him? I mean, the promise was made to the American people in the last Congress. We didn't impeach Joe Biden. We should have. The evidence was there. It was overwhelming. I'm with you. Let's take action.
You didn't have the gavel. Right. You didn't have the speakership, right? I mean, the
118th we did.
Well, you did.
But we still didn't impeach Joe Biden. So
right, you could have done what they did to Trump twice.
That's right.
Impeach on an air ball.
Exactly.
On a total miss. But we're going to leave right there. Congressman Andy Ogles, thank you very much, and love what you're doing, defending everything everyone voted for Trump to do. Close the damn border and send the criminals home. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you. God bless.
You too. All right, before we head to break, just wanted to remind you all about my podcast and YouTube page, which are updated daily. You can hear the show, tons of other content. By the way, I'm doing this whole week and probably going forward, we're going to break down the P. Diddy, the Diddy trial, which is unbelievable what's going on over there. Some of the stuff that's coming out of that trial will blow your mind. Thought you knew what was going on in freak-offs in Diddy land? You have no idea. Well, we're breaking it down. But you got to subscribe. Just head over to YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. It's absolutely free, but it's unique content, and we don't hold back, folks. See you 2.5 minutes after the break. With this race-laced, joyless classic, who can't handle the voting demographic of the state of Iowa.
These are white Christians. That this is a state that is overrepresented by white Christians that are going to participate in these caucuses, yes, especially tonight. And this is a hyper-evangelical white state.
White Christians, ooh, bad, right? From the Iowa caucuses over to Super Tuesday, where Joyless was absolutely convinced that white people don't care about being poor thanks to Bidenomics. No, they care about, quote, brown people coming over the border.
But Republican voters don't vote that way. They don't vote based on economics or based on the benefits they're getting economically from the president. They're increasingly, from the Tea Party on, they're voting on race. They're voting on this idea of an invasion of brown people over the border. The idea that they can't get whatever job they want. A black person got it, therefore drive all the blacks out of the colleges, get rid of DEI. That is what they're voting on. Yeah. Therefore,
a reckless domestic policy, week after week after week. And it's no surprise if this turns into, as well, a reckless foreign policy.
They just can't take it. They can't take it. You know, Trump's over there being a businessman. He's obviously going in there cutting deals. He cut $600 billion with the Saudis, $260 billion with Qatar, another couple $100 billion. He's going to walk back here with $1.2 trillion in business deals, effectively making the presidency the biggest corporation on the planet, and for good reason. This is why I wanted Trump from day one in 2015, before he even announced. I knew running the country like a businessman that Trump is, would be the right thing to do. $1.2 trillion in business activity coming in one trip in 3 days by Trump overseas. Phenomenal. But guys like Hakeem Jeffries, they can't stand the success. I don't know about you. I kind of like all the winning, not getting tired of it. That's one thing Trump was wrong about. He said we were going to get tired of winning so much. Not yet. Jeffries is one of the many Democrats who's decided to play with fire. A few of his immature colleagues stormed an ICE facility. We've been talking about it all day. And just because the angry Dems are making a joke out of it does not mean there will not be consequences. Trump is pissed, and so are countless law-abiding non-Democrat Americans who, like the rest of us, can't just do whatever they want whenever they want with no consequences. Here's Team Obama again, launching threats across the aisle should any of the reckless Democrat buddies get arrested. Listen.
Your statement the other day after there was this incident in Newark, you said they better not touch our members.
Correct.
What happens if they were to go and arrest these members, or if they would try to sanction them here in the House of Representatives?
They'll find out.
What would you do, though?
They'll find out.
Of course. But doesn't that broach a...
They'll find out.
Doesn't that go across...
That's a red line.
What's the red line, though? I know we have this...
It's a red line. It's very clear. First of all, I think that the so-called Homeland Security spokesperson is a joke. It's a joke. They know better than to go down that road, and it's been made loudly and abundantly clear to the Trump administration. We're not going to be intimidated.
We can't handle it. It just cannot handle it. Pothole Pete, remember him? Pete Buttigieg. Well, he hasn't said much since old Joe left town, but Pete is using his voice to defend Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the angry, deported MS-13 gangbanger who beat the crap out of his wife a few times. At this point, is an unofficial member of the Democrat Party, wouldn't you say? I don't know, maybe he'll run for president in 2028. They don't care if he was born here or not, do they? Listen to Mayor Pete defend this criminal with his life.
They're saying like, oh, well, this guy, he's a criminal. The whole point is that no one person, least of all, no one politician, gets to decide that you're a criminal. Who decides?
Okay, folks. Okay, ready, rumble, chat, get her chat, ready, chats, light up. Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete, he's going to be the Democrat nominee for president in 2028. I'm saying it here now. What's the date? May 15th? Hey, Mad Dog, jump on for a second. Mark this calendar. Take a little video of this, because I'm saying May 15th, 2025, that Mayor Pete Buttigieg will be the Democrat nominee for president in 2028.
I will mark it down on the calendar.
Thank you. AOC continues to spout the same toxic BS about Medicare and the Republican Party. I kid you not, the same exact talking points that we've heard for months from AOC. She just won't let them go. She's completely wrong about them, yet she can't help but running her pie hole. Watch.
Who do you believe? The people who are trying to cut this, not, by the way, to cut from quote-unquote undeserving people to give to deserving people, but they are cutting these Medicaid care and these Medicaid dollars to pay for tax cuts for Elon Musk and billionaires. So this money isn't even going towards funding better care for people who are eligible. This money is going, and we are cutting money and health care from people and families who are suffering to pay for tax cuts for the rich. It is a crime happening in front of the American public right now. I yield back.
None of that is true. No, the Republicans want to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. There's massive waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare, Medicaid, so many programs, even the Defense Department. No one's benefits are getting cut. We're just going to stop sending 200, 300-year-old people Medicare benefits. After demolishing Ilhan Omar the other day, it appears as though James Carville has a bit more to say about some of his other sloppy and counterproductive Democrat peers. In fact, he ran through a list of buzzwords that his party needs to drop. This is how they do. They just circle the wagons. Listen to Carville.
Don't use the word equity. Use equality to your little heart's desire. People basically don't know what it means, and if they do know what it means, it looks like you tried to force an outcome. This is another really stupid word, oligarch. Who the knows what an oligarch is? But I wouldn't even use the LBGQT plus or whatever it is. I just call people gay, a lesbian, or trans, or bi. I don't know. There's nothing. It's just the way you are. But you don't need to. You come up with other words for things, and you're trying to signal that there's something wrong with the term, or you're just trying to show people how smart you are. So don't use words like that. Don't use words like intersectionality. God, I was listening to during the pandemic. I was listening to NPR, and they had this panel discussion like they're doing. They talk about intersectionality. I literally thought they would kind of go overboard in ecstasy on the radio. And okay, it's a real thing. No one uses the term intersectionality except for NPR.
I got a few more words Carville might recommend his Democrat counterparts not use. I say they don't use inflation is transitory, or maybe they shouldn't use the border is secure. This next one is great. The lunatics over at The View celebrating the new Pope, Pope Leo XIV. Apparently, Leo's grandparents were Haitian. Take a guess at what the ladies on The View, especially Sonny Hostin, well, they would play the race card. Of course, Sonny, she can't help herself. Watch.
As it turns out, our new American Pope has Haitian and Black roots. So we actually have a Black Pope. Apparently, it's like chef's kiss for me. So apparently, both of his maternal grandparents are described as Black, Haitian, or mulatto in several census documents. And on their marriage license, the grandfather's birth place is Haiti, listed as Haiti. Her birthplace is listed as born in New Orleans. They were identified as people of color. But in 1920, when they migrated to Chicago, the census reflected their race as white.
So I'm loving everything.
So I'm loving. I'm really.
So is the Pope woke or not? Because he's black. Who cares? So what? His race is black. He's got black blood. What does that matter? Does it matter how he popes? Now what we're supposed to do, Sonny Hostin? By the way, keep the Pope idea on your mind for a second, because we're going to come back in 2.5 minutes with Steve Bannon, see what he thinks about the new Pope. Mad Dog, it's a live shot of Vatican City, yeah?
Yes, sir.
That's relevant because we're going to have a nice discussion. I want to bring in my favorite time of the day. My favorite time of the day because I learn something every day with the last 6-7 minutes of this show because we bring in Stephen K. Bannon, and he's the smartest man I know. Literally the smartest man I know. Mr. Bannon, so this whole debate, by the way, kudos to you. I heard 10 days before the Pope was announced in the conclave, before he had the white smoke, you predicted Pope Leo XIV. What was your tell? How'd you know? Do you even have contacts inside the Vatican?
Deep in the Curia, not just the Vatican, inside the Curia. No, because it's obvious they needed someone to continue on with the radicalness of Bergoglio, but they didn't want somebody as offensive as Bergoglio. Prevost had only been raised to cardinal less than 2 years before. He knew all the archbishops. He was part of that dicastery he headed up. And more importantly, the cash flow, because of the traditional Latin Mass church here in the United States, which is on fire for growth and vocations, really cut off the money. They're down, 50%. They have a major liquidity problem. They need the big American donors, so they need an American. Remember, they would never have picked an American in a million years because they think the American church is too powerful with the money and all that. So, and Cardinal Prevost really spent most of his adult life outside the country, Peru, Rome, running the Augustinian order. So, no, he was a perfect pick. We did a ton of work and talked to a lot of people, and this name Prevost kept coming up, the logic for it, and it was pretty obvious going to happen. And remember, it took just a day. It was only like third or fourth ballot for an unknown guy. So the fix is that this election of the Pope was more rigged than the Trump 2020.
I heard there were factions.
You want to go there? I'm going there, baby.
There were voting
you're going to open this up.
I don't care. Yeah, I'm good with it. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. There were voting blocks, and there were a couple of. I guess they were lobbying within the conclave. That's fascinating. But is he woke or not? And the reason why I'm bringing this up are, the initial reaction was MAGA was upset because there were some anti-Trump tweets that Prevost had tweeted prior to becoming elevated to the Pope. Megyn Kelly came out, I believe, yesterday and said, let's give him a chance. Here's an interview with Piers Morgan, the Pope's brother. I can't remember his name. Don't recall his name. Anyway, the brother was on Piers Morgan and described the Pope. Listen.
Well, the suggestion is that your brother, it may be a touch on the woke side. I know you're pretty anti-woke yourself. Can you confirm or deny that your little brother is woke?
I don't know that I'd even go that far to say he's woke. He's probably much more liberal than I am. But that's us.
So it's one thing is a lot of people are patting themselves in the back that they got the Pope's brother. He's liberal, and he said the Pope's more liberal than him.
Yeah, he was good. He was for them, for the radicals. It's a perfect pick. He has a much calmer demeanor. He's not as arrogant as Bergoglio. Remember, he's not a Jesuit. The Jesuits are very arrogant. The Augustinian order is a very humble order. They're essentially missionaries. But he's just as radical. He follows in the continual line. They all say that. There's no debate about what he's going to do, but he's a gentler face, better organized. And he can, the U.S. donors, the fat cat donors, are going to want to rub up against the Pope and get access and get all their, what donors want. They want, papal titles and special blessings on their marriage to give money. Yeah. It's essentially the indulgences of that the Augustinian order's most famous monk, Martin Luther, actually caused a huge division in the church that gave us gave us the Protestant wing of Christianity.
Take a listen. A reporter
away from the Catholic Church.
Gets a quick response from the new Pope yesterday. Watch.
Father, any message from the United States?
Word many, not that God bless, but the many. Any message in the United States? Many. A lot of people are trying to scratch their head and go, uh-oh, what's this message going to be?
Yeah. Little known fact, there's another clip in that in the Piers Morgan, because that's where I called it 10 days before a thing. That is 5 billion to 1 odds. His brother, the one that's MAGA, has put up all the Nancy Pelosi stuff that they made him take down, was actually a petty officer when I was a junior officer, an ensign at JG on my destroyer. We were shipmates.
I did hear that.
We were shipmates. That's 5 billion to 1.
Well, you know what? Before the next Super Bowl, I'm going to get the Worm and Steve Bannon to do a little of their deep investigative. I mean, I'll lay some serious wood on whoever Steve picks. I got a minute or so.
I tell you, Bolling, here's the thing. If you do a great job in Rio, following the Rio reset with the guys at Birch Gold, which I know you'll do, we'll fleet you up to go to Rome, and you'll do some investigative reporting as only Eric Bolling. You see, I love the whole concept. Bowling in Rome, right? Bowling in Rome. That's not Ben Harnwell. Bowling in Rome. That's not Posobiec. Bowling in Rome.
I'm in. Listen, I'll go to Rio. I want to do that. I'm in. Just very quickly, someone sent this to me, Stephen. I wanted you to see this. Let's turn on the light. We're gonna show it in this camera. Check this out. What do you think of this? Now, this is Mount Rushmore. Now, if you look closely, Steve, screen right, there's a fifth bust on Mount Rushmore. It's Donald J. Trump. What do you think of that? That's pretty cool.
Wow. I mean, that's what I voted for. Let's do it.
I mean, really, right? How do we do it? How do we do a Bannon Bowling bill through Congress to get Trump on Mount Rushmore?
I don't think we do a Congress. No. I don't think we do a Congress. I think what you do, I know it's a national park, maybe we get a waiver, but we privately fund it. Here's my theory. We take the jet from Qatar, since they're going to have to take it apart over 5 years and rebuild it. We just take it as is, flip it, sell it on eBay. The proceeds go to build, to put President Trump up on his likeness up on Mount Rushmore. You like that?
Yeah, we hire a bunch of guys with chisels and hammers, and then we just chisel Trump into.
I didn't say we oversee it. No, we'll get real guys. We'll get real guys.
Bannon with his construction hat on and goggles, going, no, a little bit more off, thin his face out a little bit.
I'm serious. Listen. Hang on. For all the mocking and ridiculing I get from certain areas of the establishment and from the left, President Trump said today, we had in the cold open, he says, hey, a lot of people talk about me running for a fourth term. I got to think about it. He's open. I'm just saying he's open.
I'm not kidding.
The troops, he's open.
I'm not kidding. Take that shot again, Mount Rushmore. That needs to be. His head needs to be added to Mount Rushmore. I'm not joking, folks. I'm serious. Steve, I stole a minute of your show. I apologize. Always good talking to you. And I got something special for you tomorrow. Something special.
Best minute in all media. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Okay, folks. When we teed it up today, we were playing the track of the 14th Amendment. Over the argument over in SCOTUS, which was right across the street from us. Mike Davis, the Viceroy, is going to join us. Ladies and gentlemen, this thing expanded to be a lot more than just talking about birthright citizenship. So let's go ahead and play our cold open. The Viceroy is next in the War Room.
Elena Kagan wondered why the administration would ever bring the merits of this case to the Supreme Court.
Let's assume that you lose in the lower courts pretty uniformly, as you have been losing on this issue.